You canceled the plans. Again. And the moment you did, something in your chest loosened. Like you'd been holding your breath for 3 days and finally got to exhale. No guilt, no anxiety. Just you, your space, and the quiet that feels more like a friend than an absence. But here's the thing nobody says out loud. That relief, that deep, almost physical sense of peace when the world outside disappears, it means something. Something most people will never understand about you. And today, we're going to talk about exactly what that is. Picture this. It's a Friday night. Your phone is buzzing. Friends are texting. There's a party, a dinner, some gathering where everyone is going to be. And on paper, you should want to go. You're not antisocial. You don't hate people. You actually care about these friends deeply. But something inside you is already calculating the cost. The energy it takes to get ready, the noise, the small talk you'll have to survive before you get to any conversation that actually means something. The drive home where you'll spend 20 minutes replaying everything you said, wondering if that one comment landed wrong. And then you look at your room, your couch, the book on the table, the lamp that casts that exact shade of warm light you love, and you make the choice. You stay.
And the world calls that antisocial, boring, even broken sometimes. But what if I told you that what you're actually doing is one of the most psychologically sophisticated things a human being can do? What if staying home isn't about fear at all? There's a concept in psychology called psychological safety. It's the feeling that you are free to be yourself, without performance, without consequences, without the exhausting labor of managing how you appear to others. Most people experience that safety in pieces, in certain friendships, in certain moments. But people who love being home, they've built an entire world of it. Your home isn't just a place, it's a psychological extension of who you are. Every object in it was chosen by you. Every corner reflects something about your inner world. The playlist you have on, the scent of the space, the way the light falls at 4 p.m. on a winter afternoon. None of that is accidental. You curated a life that feels like you. And when you step outside, especially into loud, unpredictable social environments, you're leaving that psychological sanctuary. You're entering a world that doesn't know you yet, a world that might misread you, judge you, demand a version of yourself that doesn't quite fit. So of course coming home feels like relief. You're not retreating from life, you're returning to yourself. Now pause for a second. Think about the last time you were completely, effortlessly at peace. Not the peace you had to earn by surviving something, just rest, ease, the feeling of being exactly where you're supposed to be. Where were you? For most people reading this, watching this, that memory probably involves being alone or in a very small, trusted space. Not a crowd, not a performance, just you and the quiet. That's not a coincidence, and it's not a flaw. Here's something researchers have found that most people never get told. There is a personality dimension called sensory processing sensitivity. People who score high on this trait are not just shy or introverted. They actually process the world more deeply, more thoroughly. They notice subtleties that others miss, the shift in someone's tone, the tension in a room, the emotional undercurrent of a conversation. This is a gift, but it's an expensive one, because when you take in more of everything, more beauty, more meaning, more detail, you also take in more noise, more stimulation, more of everything that drains the battery. And the world, the loud, bright, fast, never-stop world, it is not designed for you. It is designed for people who refuel by being around others. And there is nothing wrong with those people. But there is also nothing wrong with you. You are not broken because crowds exhaust you. You are not weak because solitude restores you. You are simply wired differently. And that difference runs all the way down to how your nervous system processes experience. You were never meant to live at the same pace as everyone else. Think about the people throughout history who changed something. The writers who wrote books that made you feel less alone. The artists whose work stopped you mid-breath. The thinkers who asked questions no one else had thought to ask. Almost all of them had one thing in common. They spent enormous amounts of time alone. Not because they were broken, not because they were running from the world, but because depth requires stillness. Real creativity, real thinking, real emotional processing. It cannot happen in noise. It cannot happen on demand in a crowd. It happens in the quiet, in the hours no one else sees, in exactly the kind of space you've built for yourself at home. The world benefited from their solitude, even as it misunderstood it. But here's where it gets complicated, and I want to be honest with you here, because sometimes staying home is peace, and sometimes staying home is avoidance. And the hardest thing, the thing that takes real honesty, is knowing which one it is in any given moment. There is a version of staying home that is restoration, where you recharge, you create, you think, you feel, you become more yourself, and then you re-enter the world fuller, more present, more genuinely connected when you do choose to show up.
And there is a version of staying home that is slowly shrinking, where the world outside gets bigger in your imagination than it is in reality, where the gap between you and other people quietly, invisibly widens, where you start to confuse comfort with safety and safety with living. If you've never sat with that question, really sat with it, now might be the moment. Not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. Here's the thing about people who love being home that nobody talks about. They are often the most emotionally rich people in any room they choose to enter because they have spent time with themselves, real time, the kind of uncomfortable, quiet, unfiltered time where you actually meet who you are. Not the curated version you perform for others, not the person you become when you're managing someone else's perception of you, just you. And that is terrifying at first. Most people run from it. They fill silence with noise, emptiness with people, stillness with plans, because meeting yourself requires a certain courage that no one ever tells you about. You did that work, maybe without even realizing it was work. There's a moment a lot of people describe, and maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about, where they're at a social event, surrounded by people, noise everywhere, laughter, movement, and they feel profoundly, inexplicably alone. Not lonely, alone. Like watching everything from behind glass. And then they go home, and the aloneness lifts. Because they weren't missing people, they were missing themselves. They had been outside of their own life for too long. That is the psychology of people who love staying at home. Not fear, not failure, not social anxiety dressed up as preference, though for some people that is part of the picture too, and there is no shame in that. But at its core, it is a deep, often unspoken understanding that you are someone worth spending time with, that your inner world has value, that your peace is not selfishness, that choosing quiet over chaos, depth over noise, presence over performance, that is not a lesser way to live. It is a different way to live. And for the right person, it is the only way that feels like living at all. So the next time you cancel the plans, the next time you choose the lamp and the quiet and the space that feels like you, don't apologize for it. Don't explain it. Don't spend the night texting back saying you wish you were there when some part of you knows, deeply, honestly knows, that you are exactly where you need to be. Just breathe and stay.